All right, CNT125, we're on the Subnet application lab. The first part, we did our planning, we did our subnetting, if you will, and then we did our map to get our IP scheme. If you want to use my scheme, you can, but make sure you understand how to do this. This is something we'll need to do, especially for the lab final. You need to be able to subnet your own IP scheme for the lab final this semester. So make sure you're understanding how to do this. Don't just copy mine and move on. Make sure you're understanding how to do this. I'm also going to encourage you, you'll notice down here at the bottom it says there's a second copy of this map located at the end of the lab, which there is. If you scroll way to the bottom, there's a second copy down here. I'm going to encourage you, when you're done with this lab, if you borrowed 3 bits to do it the first time, go back and borrow 4 bits or 5 bits and do it again for practice. The routers are going to, if you do it right, are going to work wonderfully. If not, they're going to fight with you and let you know that you're somewhere off track to get back on track. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. Now, what I've done is I made a quick copy of my map and I put it on my second monitor for easy reference. You might want to do that as well, or just kind of print it out and lay it off to the side so you have it for easy reference. Because what we're going to do now is we are going to connect up the routers and get them configured. So I'm going to do them based on my map. I'm going to start with my connection, my crossover between my 2 routers. And if I look at my map, I'm going fast Ethernet 01 to gigabit 001. I'm using a straight through from here, fast Ethernet, down to, I'm just going to use fast Ethernet 24. Same thing over here, 000 down to fast Ethernet 24. And then we're not doing any VLANs or anything fancy, so I'm just going to use port 1 here, and I'm going to use port 2 here, nice and simple. Same thing over here, port 1 on this guy, port 2 on this guy, nice and simple. All right, so there we're cabled up. Now we're going to connect into the routers, so I'll connect into the 2811 command line. Enable config T. I'm going to give it a host name, and I'll just call it 2811. Actually, I'll just call it Cisco 2811 for something simple. Now I need to go in and start configuring the interfaces. So I'm going to select my interface. I'll do fast Ethernet 00, my LAN interface. I'm going to set the IP address 172.16, and mine is 32.1. Followed by the subnet mask, 224.0. Okay, we'll do a no shutdown on this guy. That looks happy. If I get my subnet mask wrong or my subnet number wrong up here, it usually starts giving you some kind of warning or barking with you, or barking at you, I should say. So that interface should be okay. I'm not going to do interface fast Ethernet 0/1, my WAN interface. IP address 172.16.64.1, followed by the subnet mask. No shutdown on this guy as well. Now remember, this is a shared WAN link to the other router, so it will not fully come on until this guy is configured. Okay. Now I need to configure my routing protocol. So I need to do my router OSPF. So now I need to be a little bit kind of like on my game. So on my network, I have networks like I have the 32. Oops, get over here. Let's do it this way. There we go. 32.0 subnet. I have 64.0 subnet, and I have the 96.0 subnet in my example. And my subnet mask for these guys is 255, 255, 224, 0. So the inverse would be 0, 0. We'll have to figure out .255. Well, we now need to figure this out because this is really important to get right. So 224 is, here's 224, 111 followed by 5 zeros. So the inverse of this guy would be, don't know yet, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is the actual inverse of 224. So once I do that, I can look at what this number is and get the decimal equivalent. Well, this is 128.64.32 place, so all ones over here have to be the number 31. The inverse mask of what I did here is actually 31, 00, 31, 255. So when I do my routing protocol, my inverse mask is going to be 31.255. Now, if you have borrowed a different number of bits, you'll need to do the same process I did. Write out the subnet mask. Take this octet here, I write it out in binary, and do the inverse so you get the number, the decimal number you need, and then use that in your inverse, 00, 31, 255. That's what I'm going to use for mine because that's the number of bits I borrowed. So, over here on my router, go back in, we need to do router OSPF2. We need the network number, so we're going to need 172.16.32 is my first network, followed by 00.31.255, area 0. Next network, network 172.16.64.0, that's the next network in my map, 00.31.255, area 0. The third network on my map is 172.16.96.0, followed by inverse mask 31.255. And there is my three networks, 32.0, 64.0, 96.0, which again, I'm getting from, I go back to my map, 32.0, 64.0, 96.0, that's where I'm getting them from. And then I'm also using the inverse mask when I plug in my inverse mask for router OSPF. I'm using the inverse mask there. And I figured that out. I showed you right here how to figure that out. So that is my first router. Exit, exit. I can do a show run, and I would double check for typos. And here I'm double checking IPs and subnet masks. Here as well. And I'll do a copy run start on this guy. And I'm going to do the same process on the other router. So command line, enable, config T, host name. This was Cisco 4321. We want to do interface gigabit Ethernet 000. I'll do the LAN on this guy first. IP address, I'm looking at my map, 172.16.96.1, followed by the subnet mask. Okay, so when you do your interfaces, you're doing the subnet mask. No shutdown on this guy. I should see that port come online right there. I did. Now I'm going to do the other interface, gigabit Ethernet 0/0/1, IP address 172.16. This one is 64.2. Make sure you do not conflict the other router. No shutdown on this guy. And this should actually come online now because I've already configured the first router. Since I did this one, did no shutdown, it should come online. Only thing left is our router OSPF. So I can do router OSPF2. I'm going to plug in literally the same three networks, 172.16.32.0, 0, 0, 31, 255, area 0. Oh my goodness, watch that little typo there on the end. There we go. Network 172.16.64.0, 0, 0, 31, 255, area 0. Network 172.16.96.0. Yep, it's working on it. 96.0.0, 0, 31.255, area 0. Exit, exit. Let's do a show run. Make sure we got that in there. Okay, there's my interfaces. Looking good, looking good. There's my routing protocol config. Looking good. Copy, run, start. And now I have my basic config in both routers. All right. At this point, I would start doing a little bit of troubleshooting. I'm going to look at all my link lights, make sure they're good. So I'll come over here. I'm going to look at link lights. They're all good. If not, I check my cables. I also go into the router and do no shutdowns on ports if by chance there's a link light off. Okay. If I still have no link lights or anything like that, I'm going to do a show run and check my IP addresses, make sure they're correct, make sure I have done the no shutdown on them. And then I also, as I start looking at the routing table, down here, show IP route, I would double check that my routing configuration is correct. Okay, so as I start looking at the routing table, I'm going to double check that config on my router is correct as well. So I'd be looking at down here, if I'm having issues with my routing table, that information is correct. All right, we will come back in the next podcast, get our clients connected in and do some testing on them. And then we'll worry about looking at connectivity in our network.